Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Eva Cass. I'm the founder of datascienceupskill.com and the creator of the popular SQL bootcamp course called Practical SQL Bootcamp for data analysts and data scientists. So today we're going to learn how to create tables and insert data into tables. Now, as data analysts or data scientists, we're not really required to learn how to create databases or drop databases or create tables, insert data into tables. That's the job of engineers or data administrators. Now, although you don't have to learn how to create databases, it may be helpful to learn how to create tables and insert data into tables. And that's because most of our SQL take-home challenges or SQL interviews involve some tables. So the advantage of being able to code those tables and being able to code your answers is that you can actually figure out if your answer is correct or not. So I would advise you to learn the basics of creating tables and insert data into tables. Okay, so are you ready to start creating tables and inserting data into tables? Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we have two tables here that we'd like to create. And in fact, I'm going to show you how to create the beer info table. And then later on, you'll have a chance to practice what you've learned in this lesson by creating this beer drinkers table. Oh, by the way, these tables are inspired by Game of Thrones. And so you'll see some of our Game of Thrones characters' names here. So we're going to start by creating this table. And then we're going to input the values into this table. Okay, so let me show you how to create the table. We'll do that by using the create table statement. The create table statement is used to create a new table in any of the given database. So let's look at the syntax for creating tables. So you simply type create table and then the table name. And then inside the parentheses, you would write the column, the different columns for that table, as well as their corresponding data type. Now, before we start coding in SQL, let's first take a look at this beer info table. So as you can see here, we have 4 columns in this table, and the column names are beer ID, beer name, manufacturer, and we have price. So as you can see here, both the beer ID and price columns have numerical values or integers, whereas the beer name and manufacturer columns have string values. So this will give you some idea of the data type of these field names or column names, and that would be helpful as we start coding this table in SQL. Okay, so let me show you how to code this in SQL. Alright, so I'm now in PostgreSQL 11, and by the way, if you are interested in using MySQL or some other SQL database platforms, feel free to do that, since these commands should apply to those databases as well. In my SQL Bootcamp course, we'll start off by showing you how to install PostgreSQL and pgadmin 4, and so no worries if you don't have access to this pgadmin 4 right now. Alright, so let's start creating the beer info table. So we'll start with the create table statement, and then we specify the table name, which is beer info. And then inside the parentheses, we just specify each column name and the data type for that column name. So we'll have beer ID. And then as we mentioned earlier, this could be an integer. Don't forget the comma. And then we have, what else do we have? So we have beer name. And as we've seen earlier, this is a string variable. So we can specify this as varchar, and you just specify the length of that variable. So you can estimate like what's the longest name or beer name. Maybe it could be under 30 characters. So I usually put 30 since that's long enough. And then we have the manufacturer. Same. This would be a string variable, so let's just put varchar 30. And finally, we have the price, and this is an integer. Okay, So let's go ahead and run this query. So this query should create an empty beer info table. So we haven't inserted any values yet. And let me show you that it's empty. So if I select all the columns for that table, this should give me an empty table. Okay, so once we've created the table, the next step is to insert values into the table using the insert into values statement. And this would allow you to insert new rows into the table. So the syntax is very easy, very intuitive. So we simply write insert into and then the table name followed by the different column names inside the parentheses. And then you can then follow that up with values. And so you'll write each row of the table inside the parentheses as well. All right, so now let's start inserting values in that table. So we'll start with insert into, that's our syntax. And then what's our table name? That's beer info. And then you just list all the column names. So we have the beer ID, beer name, manufacturer, and price. And then values. So we can then start inputting the values. So 101. And then all string values should be in quotation. So Guinness beer should be in quotation. The manufacturer should be in quotation as well, followed by the price. And you'll do this for all the rows. Okay, so once you close that parentheses, you should follow that up with a comma. And if there's a null value in there or unknown value, then you simply write null without quotation. Okay. Yes. So as you can see, for row 4, we have a null value under the beer name, and for row 5, we have a null value under the manufacturer's name. All right, so those are all the values. I think we've got all of them, and so let's go ahead and run this. All right, so this should work. Let's go ahead and try running this table again. Okay, so this is the easiest way to create a table and insert data into table. This is really all you need to know in order to start coding those tables that you encounter in your SQL challenges or SQL interviews. Awesome, so now it's your turn to practice what you've learned and start coding this beer drinkers table. Now, one thing I'd like to note is that we have a date column in this table. So make sure to use date as data type for that column. Feel free to check out the solutions under this video, as well as, you can always contact me if you are confused about anything. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.